With over 180,000 produced and used by innumerable small enterprises, the Ford Thames 400E, which appeared to be nothing more than a modest, everyday delivery van, quietly rose to become one of post-war Britain's most dependable workhorses. You're going to learn the startling facts about this modest gadget today, truths that the majority of people were never aware of. Most people were unaware that the Thames 400E was purposefully designed on an older, tried-and-true design philosophy rather than attempting to be new. Ford made a different decision during a period when some manufacturers were experimenting with forward control vans, which put the driver above the engine to optimize room. Like a car, the engine was located at the front, beneath a conventional bonnet. This first gave the van a less sophisticated appearance. Surprisingly, though, it made living with it much simpler. Ford engines were previously familiar to mechanics. Spare parts were easily accessible and well known. That meant fewer headaches and less time away from the road for a small business owner in the late 1950s. Imagine making your living only from a single car. This design decision was comforting rather than outdated. And one of the van's biggest advantages comes from that feeling of trust. However, as soon as you enter, another surprising detail starts to show. You could anticipate a tight, uncomfortable driving position that serves as a continual reminder that you are in a business vehicle. Rather, the Thames 400E has an unexpectedly familiar feel to it, almost like getting into a car. Everything is precisely where you would expect it to be. The layout is straightforward, and the steering is light. This wasn't a coincidence. Ford was aware that a lot of drivers were switching from automobiles to vans, particularly as small businesses started to expand. As a result, they made the driving experience feel organic. In practice, this meant feeling less exhausted after long days and having more self-assurance when driving. This car-like feel silently made those long hours easier. Imagine making dozens of stops across small streets, climbing in and out all day. You might not notice it at first, but once you do, you'll see how well considered the design was. Then there's a feature that is so useful and innovative that once you see it, you can't take your eyes off its genius. Sliding side doors were standard on the Thames 400E, but they were much less popular in the past. The majority of vehicles still had conventional hinged doors that required room to swing open. Imagine now what it was like to live in post-war Britain: congested curbs, narrow streets, and frequent deliveries. In those circumstances, opening a broad door could be dangerous or even annoying in addition to being unpleasant. But this is where Ford's ideas really come to the fore. Drivers may swiftly reach cargo without worrying about space due to sliding doors. Every stop was safer, quicker, and more seamless as a result. This was more than just a perk for someone who delivered things all day. It was a daily benefit. Perhaps a minor invention, but one that had a significant impact on practical applications. Even more unexpectedly, though, the Thames 400E wasn't a single kind of car. Depending on who required it, it was a variety of things. Panel vans for deliveries, minibuses for passenger transportation, pickups for light carrying, and chassis cabs that could be converted into nearly anything were just a few of the many types that Ford offered. Most people never discuss how this adaptability made the van a creative instrument. Bakers converted them into mobile stores. It was transformed into mobile workshops by craftsmen. Local services even modified it to meet their particular requirements. It was a foundation, not simply a car. And that kind of flexibility was crucial during a period when companies were expanding and rebuilding. In addition to serving people, the Thames 400E also adapted to them. Let's now discuss something that may surprise you even more. The Thames 400E didn't rely on performance or power to stand out under the hood. Its engines, which were taken from Ford passenger cars like the Consul, had a low power output. They might not be impressive on paper. The most important fact, though, was that they were renowned for their simplicity and dependability. These engines were built to continue operating under actual operating conditions day in and day out. And everything altered as a result. Owners needed confidence, not speed. They had to be certain that the van would start when they turned the key in the morning. Imagine knowing that your entire day rests on that engine as you load your belongings before sunrise. Although it wasn't thrilling, that quiet dependability was crucial. And it's one of the reasons its owners have such a strong sense of faith in the Thames 400E. Then there's a detail that completely defies your assumptions. The Thames 400E could manage very large loads in spite of its small size. Although it doesn't appear to be a car designed for heavy lifting, it performed just that. It can carry more than you might initially think, since Ford designed it with a sturdy chassis and sensible weight distribution. This was about addressing actual needs rather than pushing boundaries. There were no fleets of cars owned by small business owners. They frequently had only one. That one vehicle had to transport materials, carry tools, and occasionally even function as a mobile workspace. That challenge was met by the Thames 400E. It developed into a trustworthy partner, silently and complacently meeting the demands made of it. However, its impact, rather than its design, may be the most significant secret of all. The arrival of the Thames 400E coincided with Britain's reconstruction, the emergence of small companies, and the revitalization of communities. And in that setting, this van turned into an opportunity rather than merely a means of transportation. It assisted people in launching enterprises, reaching a wider audience, and giving back to their communities. Most individuals were unaware of how closely it related to daily life. It was not ostentatious. It didn't look for attention. However, it was there, supporting livelihoods in the background. It's difficult not to be impressed by something so basic yet so significant when you look back on it now, and just when you thought a car like this would be praised for decades, the last chapter takes a subtle, surprising turn. The Thames 400E didn't have a spectacular goodbye despite its success. Ford debuted the Transit, a new type of van, by the middle of the 1960s. It was more contemporary, roomier, and future-focused. It took center stage, of course. What about the Thames 400E? It just moved out of the way. After production came to a stop in 1965, it was largely forgotten. This is the crucial aspect, though. The Transit might not have been successful without the Thames 400E. It established the foundation. It strengthened the bond of trust. It demonstrated the potential of a dependable commercial vehicle. It was, in many respects, the quiet start of something far greater. The Thames 400E doesn't stand out when you look at it now. It makes no attempt to impress. However, you start to view it differently if you comprehend its narrative. You can see the careful choices that went into its design. Every day you see the folks who relied on it. And you come to see that often the most significant cars aren't the ones that stand out, but rather the ones that just consistently show up and perform their duties. Perhaps because of this, many who remember it still have a particular place in their hearts for it. Have you ever seen a Thames 400E on the road, or do you know someone who used one? It would be interesting to hear how this silent workhorse became a part of daily life, so please share your memories here.